Everyone, I'm gonna try something new today. So I found out that Facebook has this interesting part of doing kind of like a Facebook podcast. So I'm gonna try that. Well, today I was checking through Facebook and several times I saw people suggesting the compression time, and while I was reading through the comments, I recognized that people actually have a weird understanding about the compression, and they start translating the compression with their own words and meanings, and sometimes confuse people about what the compression is. So I wanted to share my experience in order to clear that out and help people kind of get a different picture how I do decompression. So coming from a holistic perspective and working with dogs over 14 years full time, I was witnessed how dogs being decompressed coming out from a shelter by different people, and I just didn't see how dogs feel comfortable about it, because what they first did is basically run to the park and let the dog run and meet his freedom and get happy about it. But at some point, most of these people who made that choice ended up being in trouble, because some dogs don't understand what freedom means, and being in a shelter for a very long time, and through the stress we actually forget about their past. So we assume the dog who comes from a shelter will enjoy the freedom, not recognizing that the reason why he got in the shelter was because of an incident. That could be a trauma, could be, a turmoil of the family. There's so many things that can happen before the dog ends up in a shelter. So we're focusing on the shelter dog without recognizing his past. At the same time, we want the dog to be free and happy, but we don't understand from a dog's perspective what freedom and happiness means, which put the dogs basically in jeopardy. So first of all, when dogs exit the shelter and they arrive to a home or a foster home, the first thing they need to learn is the environment. And if we go back to the very basics, when we enter a city and we enter in a hotel room, what do we want first? We want to know where we are, where our supplies are coming from, where do you get food, and where do you get water. Hi, Sarah from Austin. So by the way, with Sarah in Austin, we did an awesome, super awesome, great foster home education class, which was basically 7 days total with awesome results, and we're still processing the data we received there, and the benefit of that workshop for shelters and foster homes. So one reason why I'm doing this kind of video podcast, whatever it is because I want to clarify certain pieces of the fostering and rescuing process. So going back, the first thing we do is we want to adjust ourselves to the new environment. Where am I? Who am I? And what does my environment look like? So what I do first when I get the dog from a rescue or from a shelter, the first thing I do is I arrive at my house. The first thing, I get him out of the car, get him his leash on, and then we walk around the neighborhood framing the environment. The environment has been framed, showing him my territory. Okay, my territory is about the block. It's basically where we're going on our walks. And I'm creating a frame that is safe for him. There are no dogs barking at the fence, and I'm choosing a time that there are no triggers, no cats, no dogs, not much traffic. Hey, Laurie Epstein is also here on board. So what next is, Lauren is foster home coordinator for Austin Pets Alive, for Austin Shelter, which is the biggest non-kill shelter in US, and we did a great class together talking about how to help people and fosters going through the process of better adoption and have the dog safe in a certain amount of time. So when I take my dog around the neighborhood, I introduce him a structure, because what dogs want is to have a reason for doing things and being who they are. Because we think dogs are pets, but basically what they are is basically working dogs. So working dogs need the job, right? And this is in DNA. The dog's just not hang around doing nothing all day. He needs a job. So the first thing I introduce him here is, hey, we are together. That's our property. This is the job. We're going in the same direction, doing the same thing. That makes me what? That makes me a co-worker. We do both the same thing, doing the same direction. So hi, JR from Dallas, from Fort Worth. I remember she has a great cane corso. And the first thing I do is create the dog a job. And from that point, the dog and the handler are team. They're team members. In that situation, the dog starts observing his environment and tries to figure out, what is that person doing? He's structured, he's going in the same direction, he's paying attention to me, he is synchronized with me, he is empathetic. So, not pathetic, empathetic. So empathy is a very, very important part of that first day, the first day at your property when your dog comes to your place. Empathy is what the dog needs to feel, because the dog right there is totally alone. You're a stranger and the dog has no clue why he's there, and you're not his savior, okay? You are nobody that he has to figure out who you actually are, okay? So the assumption that you are the rescuer and you save the dog's life doesn't mean anything at all to the dog, because he doesn't care who you are. He cares why he's here at that point and how he can get more information from you, because you are his only. So the beacon of information you are, and you show him his environment and you give him a job. That is the first impression you give your dog, which means you are an authority. So the authority perspective from your dog's point of view is that you, the source of information and safety, you can be trusted, and therefore the dog will want to get more information from you, which gets you to the next point, meaning is, hey friend, here is my family. I support my family. I give them instructions as much as I give you instructions, and I want you guys to meet. But there is a protocol how we meet. We see, we smell, and then we touch. In a certain procedure, everybody has to feel safe. So the emotional part is very important to the dog in that decompression time. What happens here in that decompression time, we don't want to push the dog to the edge, because dogs need about 2 to 3 days to actually calm down, calm the energy down, calm the chemicals down that is in the body. You need to start a detox. Clean water, a lot clean water, and healthy food to get your dog back in shape. Because when you want him to introduce you to your family, he has to be healthy as well. He has to be in communication with you. He needs to trust you, because you are an alien at some point, and he really doesn't know who you are, and he really doesn't know who these people are who's staring at him that you consider your family. He doesn't know. So the introduction to your family has to be after 2 to 3 days after your first dog made contact with you, after he had a nice, safe place to sleep on and rest. And then we're talking business to our family, because dogs don't want parties. Dogs don't love welcome parties. I know some dogs can handle it, and some of you guys have done it before and it went well, but most of the dogs who come from a shelter do not do well on these occasions. And what they do is they don't trust you, because you overwhelm them with information they cannot even process. So the good point is here is the dog really adjusts very quick. So if you have a nice procedure, again, you take your dog out to explore his environment where you live around, and then you give him straight a job, give him instructions, check your dog what he knows, and then Once he comes down the third day or fourth day, you start introducing him your family. Take your family out for a walk, have the dog being part of it. So now you expand the job. You and me, we're doing a job, and now we have these other guys with us on the job. Now we are a team of professionals going in the same direction, doing the same thing, and we eventually, when we feel comfortable, we can actually switch leashes, and everybody has the same job holding a leash, and we walk in the same direction. How fun is that? And then once that is settled in, maybe 1 or 2 weeks later, we want him to introduce to strangers. We know the dog already, we have gone through examination, the dog is already healthy. So going to the vet is basically the first interaction with strangers, and you want to have that safe. So you cannot just pick up the dog from a shelter and run into the veterinarian and do the examinations there. Strangers in the vet shop, and strangers behind the door. That is kind of a recipe of disaster. You don't want to go down that road. The next thing you want to watch is, once your dog gets healthy enough to meet strangers and other dogs, you want to take him outside, maybe going to a parking lot, and just watch people go by. See how your dog reacts to non-family people. Okay, now the dog is warmed up to you, it gives you some signals, you can read the signals already. That's a cool time to go outside, maybe going to a store where people are walking around, nobody pays attention to your dog, and now you start focusing and really connect with your dog and see how he reacts to that. As soon as you feel comfortable and your dog feels his body language is good and gives you good signals, it's a good time to grab your dog, grab some super leashes, and just go to a pet shop and let's meet the people there, because you will meet them many times. You can take the dog there for buying treats, you can take the dog there to buy dog food, you don't leave him in the car. So go there, give everybody a treat, and ask your dog to sit, and have these people not to reach out to your dog, but to offer a treat, because this is a part that many people fail with their dogs. They have people pet their dog they don't actually know well. And what happens, the dog will see that as a threat, and they will react to that. So you want to make sure how your dog approaches in that decompression time the people you introduce him to. What I usually do is I have people standing with open, nice, yummy treats in their hands, and just have the dog come up, take the treat, and walk away. That, I call it decompression meetings. This lasts about a second or two. Come towards the person, ask the dog to sit, person offers the treat, the dog stands up, goes to the person, takes a treat, 1, 2, 3 seconds, return, and back sit in a distance of 6 feet. So I'll show you a video in that post I read after. How can a decompression introduction go wrong if the owner pushes the dog to do something he's not ready to, and the dog will react because he feels intimidated, and it will end up in a bite. So in that video there is no bite, but we'll see that the owner pressures the dog to do something too fast for the dog's brain, and the dog will react because he feels intimidated. So at the end, once the dog is healthy and you do already the all meetings and you feel very comfortable with the dog, now we'll talk about meeting other dogs. So what I usually do is I get a fake dog from a children's store that looks like a dog, real size mostly, and then I just have the dog sitting in my yard, and I bring out my new dog and I free the dog and just see what happens. This is what social skill settings will look like. So in this safe decompression time, I have the dog feel safe meeting strange things and dogs and people. So the dog that is in the center of my yard, facing away from the dog, so he's exposing his butt, my dog that is on the leash will walk towards the dog and let him smell. And now I will watch what exactly does my dog do. How does his social settings and understandings are. Does he smell at the tail first? I will instantly give him a reward. Does he go first to the face? I'll try to avoid that and show him more to go towards the butt, because butt is safe and butt doesn't bite. So that's the whole trick. So if I see the dog is comfortable meeting other dogs, I will bring the real dog that usually have the same color as my fake dog, and now I'll see how he does with real dogs. You can meet 2 dogs between the fences, 1 dog on one side of the fence and other dog on the other, and let them again decompress and meet each other. So the compression can take about a couple of minutes, from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. And in that time, usually the dogs will sniff through the fence, everything is safe, and you want to watch both dogs. What does the dog message send, and how does the other dog message received? So some dogs who come from a shelter environment and were rescued at some point, some of them do not have social skills. They don't even know what a social skill is. So they see a dog approach and they get ballistic. If that's the case, you need to have a professional help. You need guidance to bring the dog over to the right side and help the dog understand how social settings and social meetings are, and he needs to better communicate with you so you can give him better instructions. So bottom line, that the compression time, including switching him to healthier food from the crap he was on in the rescue or in the shelter, not because the rescue is bad, because people have to feed many dogs, so the food quality is kind of limited. So you end up serving the dog about 3 to 4 weeks safe information so he can trust you, bond with you, create a perfect relationship, and at the end you guys are best friends, and that will last forever. Now here's the thing, do not underestimate the dog and time. You need about 3 to 4 weeks for the dog to go through a full decompression process. The compression is not the first 3 days. The compression is a whole period of time of 4 weeks where the dog is going through an experience, through a new emotional experience, how to deal with the environment, who to trust, why to trust, what safety means, what a shelter means, where to get food, and adjust in this new environment that he calls home or foster home. So if you have any question, that's a good time actually to ask your questions. I see a lot of awesome people. Elaine from Utah. I see Pam. I don't remember where Pam is from. Elena, if I'm right, she's from Austin. Hannah. Shannon is from Austin. Jennifer, I don't recall where she's from. How about you guys? Free to ask some questions, and we take it from there. Who of you guys had done pretty similar things for the decompression period? Oh, I saw Angela. Todd is here. JR from Fort Worth. So by the way, check in with my website www.romanscaninetraining.com/events/. I will post this week's a couple of events for the next couple of months, which basically go through the process showing exactly how this decompression time functions and how to keep the dog safe for the next couple of years to come by creating this safe 4-week decompression time. So Sarah, good question. Can you talk about the decompression time? A dog with extreme anxiety, do you do anything different? Well, here's the thing. A dog who has extreme anxiety, we need to understand where this anxiety coming from. So the first thing I would do, anxiety comes from fear, and fear is fear of death. Anxiety is the dog doesn't have an understanding what comes next. He cannot predict the future. Everything is unbalanced. Everything doesn't make any sense, and the dog gets anxiety because he's not in control. That excitement can start as a puppy trauma of consent, meaning is the puppy is being touched or pushed or whatever have been done without his consent, and is being re-triggered all the time, and that could be a reason why you end up in a shelter. The other one could be that the dog, for a reason unknown, eventually being on the leash, being attacked, so being next to human on the leash creates another, anxiety of fear of being in confined and not being able to react if things come up. There are some dogs who have been abused in the past of being near humans, and just the presence of a person could create anxiety. The first thing I assume is, I always assume the extreme case and start checking out things that are not. and then you end up with a very narrow part, which could be most likely, and start eliminating that part using first place eventually remedies like calming remedies or rescue remedies as they called, herbal remedies. I would not suggest at that point to go into Western medicine medication until I really narrow down the problems. In that case, if I have a suspicious direction, then I will most likely consult board certified behaviorist, and we can discuss it. I'm not taking just granted whatever he says. I will discuss with him which options we have from a medical perspective, unless I have another option on that. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for your comment. This is a perfect description of such an important component of rescue. Much respect, and thanks for you sharing your wisdom. Well, I appreciate you actually mentioning it, because most people in rescue want to help dogs. They have all these good intentions to help, but sometimes we are dragged into our time limitations and we try to push things like faster. But in this case, we have to see the dog as a patient, not as just a dog, not a rescue. And we're not here to help him. We are here to support the dog to making his own decision and learn from that. So Sarah continues the questions. How do you support an existing dog in the home so they will welcome of a new dog? Well, here's the thing. You have to choose your battles. If the existing dog has anxiety, I would not recommend to add another dog into the equation unless we can predict that the new dog that comes in the house will actually help the decompression, actually will help the dog chill out. But from my understanding, I want the parent to be the one to be in control of that support and help the dog overcome his... Oh, sorry, Sarah, I misread your question. Actually, I have to keep my phone further away. How do you support an existing dog in the home so they're welcome? Okay, now I got the question. So the correct answer here, Sarah, about bringing a dog into existing home is, again, as I did in the beginning, the first dog that is already in the home needs to understand the job description. What is a job, and who are you to tell your dog what to do? Because what we fail here is we rescue the one dog and we are not in control of our existing dogs. Happens to me sometimes as well, because some dogs regret or regress over period of time, and then we actually lose control of our dogs because we feel like so safe about them that we actually don't train them at all. And then we bring in your dog, and all of a sudden we ask the dog to do something and we are not in control of our dog. So before I bring the dog in, what I usually do is I keep a couple of days very intense refreshing methods like obedience, contact, and good recall. And then once that's set, I will use my dog, the existing dog, as a paradigm of how my job works, because I will be in that case the employer, and I'm employee and dog who I control, meaning is I control my employees, and I bring another professional in the house which I show him how my business run. If I don't have a control of my own dog, how will this new dog feel about me that I am not in control of situations? He basically will team up with my dog and leave me outside of that. It's very important that we go through the process of teaching my dog first how my business runs, and then bring the new dog in and introduce him how my business is going, and I will have a good example how I want my employees to perform. So I'm not coming from a perspective the dogs are my slaves and I'm their master. I'm not coming from a perspective my dogs are a pack and I'm the pack leader. And I'm not on the condition that my dogs are chicken and therefore they have a pecking order. I kind of see it from perspective that I have professionals, they have to perform, and the reason I want them to perform is because everybody will be safe about that. I hope that answers your question, Shannon. Good. Okay, so we have 3 minutes left if anybody wants to ask a question. Meanwhile, I want to thank everyone for joining that, my first timer, let's call it like Facebook, I don't know, you tell me what it sounds like. Yeah, Facebook podcast. So yeah, welcome, Sarah. Answers. Yeah, I hope the answers make sense. Jeremy, I guess you work with rescue. You seem kind of very educated. There are a lot of misconceptions out there. Unfortunately, there is an idea and there is kind of like a belief system around what a rescue is and what trainers do and what trainers supposed to do and what dogs supposed to do. It's kind of very patriarchic, and we're going in an era out of that patriarchic system, and we are a little bit more aware of dogs' consciousness and cognitive knowledge and emotional intelligence and all this stuff. But we'll talk more about it in like one of my classes. You're welcome to join. So thank you very much for listening today. I hope that is able to be shared. I don't even know about that. So wish you a great weekend and hope to see you in one of the workshops. Thanks a lot for listening. Have a nice weekend.